Well, good morning, Movement Church. It's fabulous to see you this fine morning. I hope it's been a great start to your Super Bowl Sunday. Is everyone excited about this game? No. Yeah, not excited. We've got our one Chiefs fan right toward the back, right back here. Yeah, don't take too much ridicule, my son, but we're glad to have you today. My name's John Wilson, and I'm a member of the teaching team here. And most importantly, I'm a grateful follower of Jesus Christ, and it is a pleasure to serve Jesus in our community. One just odd thing I'd like to share about. Usually, when I teach, I like to have some sort of odd thing to share about myself. But one of the things I am really into is eating as many vegetables as possible. Is anybody else into this? No one. Oh, I got one hand. Luke, thank you. Oh, and very nice. I didn't know that. I enjoyed brown. Good. We got two, three of us in the building. Very good. But one thing I'm really into is this. So if you don't know what this looks like, it looks something like this on your plate. I like to take pictures of my food. Sometimes. So just as many green beans as you can. I have a friend of mine. We like to text each other back and forth like what we're eating. So it looks stuff like this, like as much broccoli and cauliflower, maybe like as much zucchini as you can. Maybe pea. This is ridiculous. I know it's crazy, but I want to challenge you today to take the veggie challenge. All right. The veggie challenge. So here's what this involves. Basically, you just eat as many vegetables as you can and take pictures of it and send it to me. It just changed my life. Like I'll be like, yes, health on your plate. Really exciting. Realize that some of you will spite this and you'll send me like all of the meat possible on your plate. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you. Appreciate that support. However, I just want to challenge you. This is a fun thing that I like to do. So if you'd like to join in with me, please do. We are continuing in our series today entitled Two Words. We've explored many two-word phrases in Scripture, one of which is exercising your faith. The next one we did was cease striving. And then we did one another last week, and we learned that is also a verb. You can one another somebody as well, which is kind of a fun way to look at it. And this week, we are going to look at the phrase follow me. This was something that Jesus used to grow his following. And in this, we're going to go a little bit deeper, into how he used that, what that looked like. But I want to talk about in our culture specifically, what follow me really looks like. In our culture, our understanding of follow me might look something like this. Is everybody, familiar with these buttons? What's this button on? Does anybody know? X, very nice. This one, Facebook, Instagram, very nice. Yeah, so we've got our normal follow buttons that are part of this, and the idea here is you click it and you are now following this person. You get updates. You might have like a good idea of what they're saying that week, so you can flip through your feed and see all the new things that they're going on. Usually you're hearing about some a new album that they've come out with, or maybe it's some slick phrase, that they've got now, or maybe they've got some new sales pitch for you, like, hey, for $13.99 every month, you can have X that I've created just for you, for whatever. It's interesting. It's pretty easy, right? You click the follow button, and then you're now following that person. And then you're like, maybe it's a second later, it could be like a few years later, you're like looking for this button, right? You're like, I'm done. I don't want to hear about you anymore. It was good while it lasted, whatever it was. And literally, like with one click, you're off of it and moving right along. So now it's quiz time, okay? Who is, and this is, I know it's church, we don't usually talk a lot when we're doing this, and I usually talk the whole time, but I can't really handle that. So this morning, I want to challenge you. Who is the number one most followed person on all social media everywhere? Like, I'm talking millions. Who? Musk. Okay. Who else? Mr. Beast. Okay. Wow. Who else? Anybody? John. Patrick Mahomes. You might get booed out of here, son. All right, you got to be careful, man. All right. Actually, so I don't know if you're really into soccer or not, but does anybody know who this gentleman is? Cristiano Ronaldo. I'll give you a little backstory for the non-soccer people in the building. But he is widely considered as the GOAT, the greatest of all time of soccer. He's considered the best at achieving some of the highest accolades in soccer in all time. I think you really should know this guy if you don't. He has literally 985 million followers on social media. 900, that's right. Almost 1 billion. That's almost 12% of the earth follows this guy. Like, wants to hear what he said. Let's see. He says things like this: dreams are not what you see in your sleep. Dreams are things which do not let you sleep. Like, man, determined guy. And then he says things like this: your love makes me strong. Your hate makes me unstoppable. Like, ooh, man. All right, Cristiano. So anyway, interesting fellow. And he has quite the following. And as you know, many of you know, in many parts of the world, there is one true football. And football is how we would define soccer, obviously. Someone else. Who's the number two? Anybody have any idea? We said I figured somebody would say Taylor Swift. You would think so, but it's not, actually, believe it or not. Does anybody know who Selena Gomez is? Selena Gomez. She is let's see, she has 689 million followers. I was actually, I work in the mall, I work at Apple, and I, walk around the mall a lot. I've been at Apple for 15 years, so I've done a lot of mall walks in my time. And Selena, it's interesting. She has like a cosmetic brand, I guess, as well. It's called Rare. So she's in this huge picture inside of one of the brands out there. But she was interesting. She is a businesswoman. She has, advocates for mental health and equality and many other things. But she is a fairly controversial figure. But many people do follow her very closely. All right, last one. This one is actually a gentleman that I remember many teenage girls screaming over and over and over again. You know who I'm talking about? Justin Bieber, everybody. Yes, he is the number three most followed person in the world. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen videos of this or maybe you've seen teenage girls with this, but there's a lot of screaming that happens. I never really understood that. I was like, are you happy? Or like, what's going on here? He has 596 million followers. He is kind of considered the one of the best selling, well, I'd say the best selling music artist of all time, selling over 150 million records worldwide. Like, man, like that's intense. Anyway, widely followed fellow. It's interesting. So we have the opportunity to follow them. I don't. I'm just good, Tom. Sorry if you do. All the power to you. You might be following them currently, but you can follow them 1 second. You can unfollow them the next, or sorry, you could, be their follower for a moment, and then you can quickly decide, I'm good. I don't really want to be a part of this anymore. The interesting, our understanding, kind of that with social media is quite contrary to what Jesus actually taught. And so that's kind of what I want to go into today into is like the difference between our understanding of that and how Jesus really put that. This highlights more like our kind of consumer culture that I think we can click on something and it can cost us very little. Like we can passively go through a feed and take a look at what someone has to say. But Jesus, when he says, follow me, means something very different. So I'm going to be working together with you today, hopefully with some nice interaction, answering this question: how do I follow Jesus? That it's not as simple as clicking a quick button, but that it may cost you something to consider to be a follower of Jesus, that it may actually require something from you as you talk through it. So I want to share with you a story of a man named Matthew. I don't know if you have any Chosen fans in here, but this is the Chosen's depiction of what Matthew may have looked like. Matthew was a Jewish man enlisted by the Roman government during the Roman occupation of Israel to collect taxes from his own people. You see, he was seen as a traitor. He is someone who was seen as someone who had abandoned his own people and had utilized his talents to force his own people to submit to Roman oppression. He used his gifts against God, I guess that some people would say. But he wasn't just someone that did this for Rome. Most tax collectors at the time, they kind of used it to their own advantage. So, say Rome said, "Hey, I want you to go out and I want you to collect 10% from everybody." Tax collectors generally would say, "Oh, great, cool. All right, so everybody, you owe 15%. They give 10% to Rome. They keep 5% for themselves." And that was part of the trader concept that many of these people saw, is like, you're going above and beyond what I even owe. And so they cheated their own people out of money that they were not obligated to pay. And Matthew would have been hated by all true Jews. And, kind of, if some of you have seen The Chosen, you kind of see a depiction of kind of what that may have looked like. But that was a serious bit of hatred that they felt. So I want you to get a picture of this. So Jesus, being Jesus, of course, Jesus went on from there. He saw Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." He told him, and Matthew got up and he followed me. You see in verse 10, while Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, so instantly they go to his house to have dinner, and more tax collectors come and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" And on hearing this, Jesus said, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." And so I want to go through with you about when we follow Jesus, there is this sense of coming as you are to follow him. See, I think there's this misunderstanding when we follow Jesus that we need to clean up our life first, then we will be presentable to God, and then God will accept us and move forward from there. And you see from the life of Matthew that that was not the case at all. Matthew was a traitor. Matthew was somebody that wasn't wanted, that was hated, that had cheated everyone. And Jesus walked by and he said, "Follow me." And he did. There was no cleanup prior. It was, "Here I am, and here's who I be. Take me forward." So if you look at that specific verse, Jesus made it pretty clear. It's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. And so when you look at Matthew specifically, he had turned against the theocracy of God. He had turned toward a Roman government to bring him income and had cheated his own people. But yet Jesus called him and wanted him. And so I think what that means for us, and what that means for you, is that God gives you hope. See, it's not, there's this misunderstanding that God wants you to fix yourself. But the gospel is quite different. When Jesus calls you to follow him, he's actually calling you where you are in that moment. And I think he takes you places that you never thought possible. I think he changes you from the inside out. It's not that he expects you to change yourself and then he'll join you in your life. He wants to change you from the inside out. He doesn't want you to clean up your life first. He wants you to come as you are and present yourself to him. It's the opposite concept of what you would believe. See, I think Jesus is looking for brokenness. He's looking for people that aren't looking to perfect their life and clean up their life first. He is looking for someone that has discovered that they don't have what it takes. There's somebody that needs complete dependency on God, that God is the only one that can actually heal you. You can't be dependent on yourself. You can't fix it yourself. Only God can. If you're waiting to follow Jesus, to first prove to God that you're good enough for him, that day will never come. You'll never be at a place where God is going to say, "Wow, you did it. Come on." It's quite the opposite. God wants you right where you are right now, where you have no other option but to submit to him and say, "God, here I am. I can't do anything else. I must have you. I must follow after you." I'm part of an amazing program called Celebrate Recovery. And Celebrate Recovery is a 12-step recovery program started at Saddleback Church in California. It's Rick Warren's church, if you remember. But he started, along with a few others, this program called Celebrate Recovery. It's an amazing program. So if they call it anybody that is hurts, habits, and hangups, this is for you. And that's pretty much everybody. Let's just put it out what it is. But in it, it's really interesting. First timers or leaders that have been in recovery for 20 plus, some people in the building 40 plus years, usually introduce themselves like this. They say, I am a grateful follower of Jesus Christ, and I'm in recovery for fill in the blank. And usually it's things like alcoholism, pornography, depression, anxiety, drugs, sex addiction, grief, and the list goes on and on and on. And there's one common thing that I see when I'm at these meetings. Everyone in the room realizes they don't have what it takes. There's someone that realizes, like, I don't have the answers. I can't fix my life. God, I need you to fix my life. I need you to do something inside of me that I can't do myself. I want to tell you, it's one of the most transforming situations I've ever been in where I could see God actively work in people's lives because they're not trying to do it themselves. They realize that they can't do it themselves and they need God. Step one to celebrate recovery is we admitted we were powerless over our addictions and compulsive behaviors, that our lives had become unmanageable, right? It's admitting you got a problem. You got something you can't overcome. And I would argue, whether you're in a 12-step program or not, this is what God's looking for. He's looking for brokenness. He's looking for not that you've cleaned up your life first. He wants you to come to him and recognize that he is the only one that has the answer for you. And so I would say, how do I follow Jesus? It's to come as you are. It's to set aside this idea that you need to perfect yourself first and that you need to submit yourself to him and be broken and be dependent on the one that can make you right before God. And so let's move on to the next thing. I think he not only wants you to come as you are, but after you come as you are, he asks you to leave everything, to let go control, to not be in the driver's seat of your life any longer, to make him Lord of your life, that your life is no longer controlled by you. So look at this same passage. He says, as Jesus went on from there, he saw a man, Matthew, sitting at the tax collector's booth, and he said, follow me. And Matthew got up and he followed me. I really don't think this does this complete full justice as to what really happened, like in this instance. See, he had a decent job. He had probably some very great income at this point, had high favor probably with those that he was serving, not with his own people, of course. But he left all of that without hesitation. You see, there's no well, let me think about that, Jesus, right? I'm going to set this down. I'm following you. I'm going to do whatever it is that you say. Makes me wonder, what was it? If I'm being honest, if some random guy came up to me at Apple while I'm selling an Apple Vision Pro or whatever and says, hey, follow me, I'd be like, why? Right? I mean, all of us would. So what was it about Jesus that made him do that? I mean, think about it. He followed this nomad teacher all around the countryside, no place to stay, no money, no real food. I'm going to give it all up so I can follow after him. And then there's another example from Matthew 4 with Peter and Andrew. Same kind of idea. He says, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew, and they were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. So again, regular people, normal stuff here. And Jesus came up to them and said, come, follow me, and I will send you out to fish for people. And at once they left their nets and they followed him. Man, what was it about this man? You got these two guys on a boat hanging out. Jesus calls to them and says, come follow me, to learn from him, to observe his every action, to be someone who looks like him and becomes like him. But what was it? I look at this, I wonder, what were the What were the things that really made the difference of why someone would give up their livelihood to follow after him? And I think we all know the answer is that Jesus was irresistible. There was something about him that matched no other person. I think when he spoke, people listened. I think when he arrived, curiosity spiked. People were blown away by what they saw. They saw him and they couldn't do anything less than give it all up and follow after him. See, I think this is the same for us. I think when we encounter God in our lives, it's like everything else doesn't matter anymore. When you have a moment, and some of you know what I'm talking about, when you encounter the living God, it's like everything goes away. It's like it doesn't matter anymore. The things, the trifling things that were dominating your mind prior suddenly are a non-issue because you know that the God, the creator of the world, dynamically changes everything in your life. It doesn't matter. He's going to pave the way. There's going to be a way forward. When you encounter him, it changes. So think about it. The job you worked so hard for to try to have a carefree life. You know, the idea, the American dream, right? Like you can get and just not have to do anything else in your life later in your life, right? You're striving towards something and it's like everything turns and goes the opposite direction. Your social circle, your spouse, your kids, your house, your car, your clothes, your shoes, whatever it is that's mattered to you so much, all of a sudden those are of no value to you because you've encountered the living God. He's irresistible. There's something about him that makes you want to leave everything and follow after him. See, I think it's a little different in the disciples' time, right? Jesus was this physical manifestation of God that they would physically follow. So they're leaving what they have and physically following him. I think it's a little bit different now in that we still have the same mentality and we still submit it all to him and realize that all of our money, all of our possessions, everything that we have, we submit unto him now. So you realize that the people that you love the most and the things that God has put in your charge, you never really had any power over to start with. You realize that Jesus is the one that has supplied them all and you submit to his lordship. And that's the idea in Romans 10:9, right? Like if you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord, when you make Jesus Lord of your life, you leave everything. When I say leave everything, I mean you put it all in his charge. You are no longer in the throne of your life. He is. And he is the one that moves forward with that. See, that's the idea of follow me. It's not just believing that he is who he says he is. It's declaring that he is Lord of your life. And that is the idea of leaving everything. So I want to challenge you. Maybe that's you today. Maybe like early in your life, you prayed a prayer and you said, Lord, I love you. I realize I'm a sinner and I need you, Jesus. And I believe that you are who you say you are. But there was never a point in your life where you surrendered your life to him, where you left everything on the table and you said, God, I have been the Lord of my life for all this time. You know what? I'm tired. Can't make it happen. I can't strong arm my life any longer. You are the Lord, and I surrender everything to you. So I would challenge you, if that's you today and you've never made that choice, that conscious choice to make him Lord of your life, I want to encourage you to do so. Will it be painful? Absolutely. Will he ask you to do things that you never thought possible? Yes. Will he ask you to mend that relationship that you've never wanted to mend in your life? Yes. He's going to ask you to do some tough things. But remember, he's asking to be the Lord of your life and asking to take you forward. Final point I want to share this morning. How do I follow Jesus? I think he calls us to apprentice with him. Apprentice with him. I want to kind of describe kind of this idea as the idea of apprenticing is to model our lives after his. It's realizing that he is the master and that we are the student, that we are here to learn, not to teach, He is the one showing us how to live. So one of my favorite passages is Matthew 11:28-30. And this is from the Message. Just love the way Eugene Peterson phrases this. Jesus says, "Are you tired, worn out, burnt out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." I mean, look at the words here, y'all. Like, get away with me. I'll show you. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch how I do it. Keep company with me. You'll learn. You see, that's what he's ordered and what he's put together here is this apprenticeship idea, right? It reminds me a lot of like interns, right? You know, you're sitting around a table and somebody is showing you like how you need to do something, how you need to step forward. It reminds me of Mr. Chris Tomdale right over here, the amazing architect in the building, right? I would imagine you probably had thousands of hours you would have to apprentice under a licensed architect. Is that right? Okay. How many hours? You don't even know. There you go. Like, it's a lot, right? Like, because you have to learn your trade. You have to walk alongside them. I think of electricians as a really good example, right? Like, you have an apprenticeship that you do to become a master. Our fabulous Andrew, toward the back right here, is an electrician. You're an apprentice electrician right now, right? And then you are going to become a master soon, right? Close enough. Okay. Well, there you go. Apparently, I don't know the terminology, right? But the idea is that like you are apprenticing under a master, right? And you're going to be the eventually a master in your trade, but you've had to have hours like learning from somebody else before you're ready to really engage in your own business and do that. See, I think this is more the idea that Jesus is speaking to. What he's not speaking to is checking a box. See, I think in our lives, like often we have defined like following Jesus as checking a box earlier in our life. So, for example, like you went to a really great conference of some sort, you were in a church service, you were at home, you heard it from a friend, and you made the decision, okay, I'm going to be a Christian now. However that looked for you, it can look very different for each person of what that decision really looked like, but it was a decision that you made. I'm going to be a Christian. Check. Got it. What's next? Maybe it involve baptism too. So you got baptized. Cool. Got the certificate. Gave it to my mom. Good to go. You know, kind of moment, right? Whatever it looked like. I'm a Christian. I got it done. But see, it's very different from this. It's a much different model that Jesus was speaking to. He's speaking to more like this. He's speaking to like a teacher and a student. You're learning from him. You are walking through life with him. You are adapting and becoming more like him, except it's a little different than the classroom setting that we're used to. It really looked more like this, right? Bunch of guys walking on a road together. Like, if you read in the Bible, like literally, they are like going with him everywhere. So they go to the market, they go to weddings with him. They went to services and synagogues with him. They sat under his teaching. They ate with him. They slept in the same room with him. They hung on every word that he had to say. And they were a bunch of knuckleheads. We know this, like just like us. Like they had no idea what they were doing. They just know they're supposed to follow this guy. And they would be as close as they could. There's a pastor named John Ortberg, and he says, I think I got it in there. He says the one thing needed is the decision to live so continually in Jesus' presence as to be always covered with the dust of the rabbi. And the idea of this is that you walk so closely to your teacher, you walk so closely to him that you are literally covered with the dust from his feet as he's walking. And that's the concept. There's even some rabbinic blessings that involve this as well, where they want you to be blessed by the dust that comes from your rabbi's feet. You're to follow him so closely that you model and apprentice with him and follow after him in that way. So don't check a box. Apprentice with Jesus for life. Walk with him so close that you're covered in his dust, literally. Watch his every move. Learn from every word. So what does that mean for you? I think, this, we saw kind of what this looked like for the disciples, but I think for us, this is about time investment, which is the thing that everybody wars for, right? Like for us, think about all the social media examples I gave, right? Oh my goodness. Everybody wants our attention for something, right? But I think where this really begins when you apprentice with Jesus is in the quiet moment. I challenged the junior high students this morning. It's in the quiet moment when you read the Bible and you listen. One verse, listening. God, what is it you want to say to me? How do you want to adjust my life? What do you want to do inside of me? And I would argue that that is apprenticing. So what that could look like here at the Movement Church is being here like you are this morning, learning, hungry to grow, joining growth group, rubbing shoulders with other people. They're just like the disciples, don't know what they're doing. They need more of Jesus in their life. Joining a move group, like spending some time examining scripture. I know like my wife is memorizing scripture with hers right now. That's a real challenge, right? Like there's some great ways in which you can grow with others in that. So that's a lifelong journey. You can even begin here at the Movement Church. And so I want to challenge you to follow Jesus. And I'll just recap with you briefly, but like he says to come as you are. He's not looking for you to perfect your life before you come to him. He is looking for people that realize that they are broken and they are desperate for him, regardless of their circumstances or what they've done in their lives. Just like Matthew, right? The traitor who called him and brought him just as he was. He calls you to leave everything, to make him Lord. It's not a single acknowledgement that you believe that he is who he says he was, but is a submission to him as the Lord of your life. And finally, apprenticing under Jesus. It's becoming a learner. It's becoming a student of his, letting go of the life that you've had and modeling your life daily after him, walking so close that you get the dust from his feet, being around him, being near him, hearing him, and adjusting your life as you see what only that he can do. So I want to challenge you this morning. Follow Jesus. Submit your life unto him. I promise you, you'll never see anything quite like it as you.
Thank you for tuning in today. We want to know, what is your next step? Would you email us at info@movementchurch.co and let us know what the Lord is asking you to do and how we can help. If you'd like to contribute to the Movement Church, and we'd appreciate if you do, you can text any amount you would like to give to the number 84321. You can find the Movement Church on all social media platforms, and we'd ask that you give us a follow and stay connected so that you too can be a part of our story. Remember, God is for you, and so are we.